It was a game filled with drama.
But there's still some time to go in the regulation. Look out, the goal!
It was a game filled with controversy.
About a shootout right now. He's on a solo run. He's breaking through all by himself. The shot hit the crossbar.
It was a game that ended on a controversial note.
Will he do it?
No, I think
What's the timeout or not?
And it was a game that has largely gone forgotten. Today, we're going to talk about the most famous game in the history of the North American Soccer League. I've talked about the NASL before. It was the first serious professional association football league in United States history, and it's remembered today as a failure in general. There were numerous reasons why the NASL folded. Most people cite economic issues, especially this US recession that lasted from summer 1981 through the end of 1982. Of course, that ignores the economic turnaround that started right afterwards. Remember, the NASL did not completely go under until after the 1984 season. In my opinion, the NASL's biggest problem was that it was a league designed to make money and to make it today. It was not a league designed to make association football popular in the United States. It was all about shipping in the big names, promising to pay them huge amounts of money, and expecting that Americans would be more than happy to shower the league with cash. Many of the teams never really developed a strong local following. In fact, this game is actually an excellent example of that. Now, in late 1979, there was a lot of local interest in the Vancouver Whitecaps. The original Vancouver Whitecaps were formed in 1974. That was the year before the NASL's popularity explosion. Whitecaps advanced gradually, moving from perennial cellar dwellers to best in the division by 1978. In many ways, the Whitecaps were developing a team the right way. Canada still had a strong colonial tie to Great Britain at that time, of course, and the Whitecaps, as a result, were a mixture of various British star players and a few really talented Canadians. An aging Alan Ball started for the Whitecaps in 1979. He was joined by Kevin Hector. Willie Johnston played for the Whitecaps that year. And there was Phil Parks in goal, fresh from Wolves. Their most notable Canadian player was clearly Carl Valentine, whose 2 goals against Honduras in 1985 sent Canada to the World Cup for the first time ever. Most of those English players were playing in the NASL on loan over the summer, probably more to keep in shape than anything else, and you can really see it when you watch the game footage. The New York Cosmos, meanwhile, were anything but cohesive. Pele, of course, was long gone. He retired for good in October 1977. But the Cosmos were absolutely loaded with stars, including an aging Franz Beckenbauer. There was also Brazilian World Cup hero Carlos Alberto. The Cosmos had also signed Iranian legend Andranik Eskandarian. There was also Dutch legend Wim Riesbergen, and also Johan Neeskens. The Cosmos also had an aging Terry Garbett, who was playing his final season in 1979. Yeah, and I could go on. The New York Cosmos were more like a fantasy league team than an actual team. You had players with wildly different styles of play. There were players who couldn't communicate with each other because they didn't speak the same language. The whole thing was a mess. Like I said, the Cosmos were really put together as a product to be consumed and not as a team to play cohesive soccer. Okay, here's where stuff gets a little complicated. The NASL was at its height in 1978, as you can see in these opening shots of that year's Soccer Bowl. But it didn't have a deal with a major television station. This game was broadcast through TVS. This was an independent broadcaster that sold its sports content to individual television stations. Okay, if you're not familiar with American television before the cable boom in the mid-1980s, you're probably a little confused by this. So there were 3 major national television networks at that time, NBC, ABC, and CBS. Those were actually the old radio powers, but we're not going to go deep into all that history. Local TV stations were usually affiliates of one of those 3, though not always. Independent local networks did exist, but those were usually shoestring operations without much of a budget. Now, organizations like TVS produced content that these stations and stations with affiliation could purchase and air depending upon local interest. Basically, TVS was a middleman for stuff that the big networks didn't want to touch. Now, this did mean that the NASL was technically on TV, but this model was not sustainable at all in the long term. ABC signed a $1.5 million deal with the NASL for the 1979 and 1980 seasons. That's described here in this February 1979 Sports Illustrated article. ABC promised to personalize the coverage with interviews and human interest segments. It was also toying around with the idea of having Howard Cosell broadcast the games. Yeah, Howard Cosell would have been interesting, sure. If you don't know about him, he was a self-promoter who rubbed just about everybody the wrong way. In the end, ABC decided to go for Jim McKay, who was famous from the Wide World of Sports series. And as you'll see, he wasn't exactly a great fit for soccer. Unlike football in most of the world, the NASL had a postseason series to determine the league champion. The series consisted of home and home two-game series between two teams, and 16 teams qualified for the playoffs. As you can see, almost every single team made the playoffs in 1979. Now, the NASL didn't mess around with aggregate goal totals or away goals or anything like that. You had to win both games of the series to advance. If both teams won one game each, you would have to play a 30-minute mini-game at the end of the second game to determine the winner. That's right, you would get an independent 30-minute game at the conclusion of the full 90-minute game. And yeah, this was completely insane, and it makes absolutely no sense to me. Vancouver and New York played in the Conference Championship in 1979, one step away from the Soccer Bowl. Yeah, they called it the Soccer Bowl. I mean, everything was designed for commercial appeal in the United States, and yeah, I agree, this was ridiculous. Vancouver whitewashed the Cosmos in the first leg, 2-0. It's interesting to note that there was local TV coverage of that Wednesday night game in both cities, but no national coverage. Now, that coverage was necessary because the Whitecaps sold out Old Empire Stadium the first day the tickets went on sale, and they probably could have sold another 50,000 tickets if the stadium were big enough. Fans in Vancouver could watch the action live that evening on Channel 8, and in New York City it was on Channel 9 starting at 11 p.m. Sadly, nobody bothered to record that game, at least nobody that I'm aware of. I would love to see a tape of it though. Willie Johnston scored a remarkable header for the Whitecaps in that first game.
Alan Ball lofting a beautiful cross to Willie Johnston for the first score.
And Eskandarian for the Cosmos was given a red card and suspended for this cheap shot on Kevin Hector in the closing seconds. Adding to the controversy, Carlos Alberto was suspended for the remainder of the season after spitting on an official at the end of the 2-0 loss. You know, the NASL up to this point was relatively free from these kinds of ugly incidents. But, I mean, this was really ugly. I mean, this was so ugly that the Cosmos threatened to sue the league over these suspensions. And so, in the face of all this controversy, the greatest game in NASL history began. It was televised throughout the United States and Canada on ABC, and this time someone managed to tape it. We'll let Jim McKay explain the situation.
And what the Cosmos must do here today is very simple. They must win 2 games in one afternoon. They had the same situation last week, and it's because of the playoff structure in the NASL. It's a home-and-home series. Vancouver won on Wednesday night in Vancouver. Now the Cosmos must win a regular game, and if they do that, then win a shorter 30-minute decider game to move on to next week's Soccer Bowl.
Now, the other thing you've got to realize is that there were no ties in the NASL in those days. Every single game had to have a winner. That meant extra time and a possible shootout after every single game. This despite the fact that the NFL and also college football at that time had tie games, but we won't go into that. The NASL was also an early proponent of the so-called golden goal rule. In the United States, we call that sudden death. In this case, both the proper game and the prospective mini-game could have a shootout at the end, which would of course make for a really long afternoon. The other thing to note is that this game wasn't a sellout, though you have to look close to the background to realize that. Fewer than 45,000 people showed up at Giant Stadium that day. That was a stadium that sat something like 80,000. Believe it or not, that was actually lower than the Cosmos' average home attendance during the regular season. The Cosmos had drawn 76,000 fans the week before for another must-win game against Tulsa. Some people at that time claimed that the problem was ABC's insistence on a starting time of 2 p.m. In retrospect, though, I really think this was a sign of a team and a league that was in fast decline. You can see the decline here. The height of New York Cosmos attendance was 1978. By 1981, the city had fallen out of love with the team. Yeah, and honestly, I'm really not all that surprised. I mean, this is what happens when you slap an all-star team together and expect people to just support it. Now, I know that there were die-hard Cosmos fans, and I know that there still are Cosmos fans today. But honestly, in New York City, that team never really gained much of a local foothold. Sellout or not, though, this crowd was into it from the start. And they were rewarded early. The Cosmos came out attacking from the beginning.
This could lead to something. Cedinho has got Canali in the middle. Here comes Stewart again. Here's Cedinho with the ball. He could get a shot. No, back out to Stewart. Canali is still in the middle waiting for it. Ricky Davis.
The Whitecaps, however, had a devastating counterattack.
Weimark all by himself all of a sudden. Here comes Beckenbauer. Look out, this could be a...
Giorgio Chingalia, who wound up being the NASL's all-time leading scorer, scored first for the Cosmos.
What he lost on that first one. He draws the defenders. Canalia is open. Parks comes out, but the ball is perfectly placed by Canalia.
But Vancouver came right back.
One of their forwards moving up. Ray Lewington, red-headed Scotsman, centering the ball for Weimark. The header hit the crossbar and brought down.
Weimark's shot was ruled to have not crossed the line. What do you think?
Bergkamp doesn't go for it. Weimark above everybody hits the underside of the bar, bounces down on the line. Thankfully grabbed by Bergkamp. Another
Vancouver did manage to equalize just a few minutes later.
30-minute game to decide the issue between the two teams. It's a goal. John Craven, the defender.
Okay, this is where I really need to talk about how bad ABC's coverage was. We'll start with Jim McKay, who felt it necessary to explain what a free kick was. Watch this clip.
Okay, so the free kick again for the team that is offended. That's the first thing for you to remember in this game.
Only an American announcer could take something so simple and make it so complicated. And then you've got this fascination with interviewing players during the game, including cutting away from the action to do so.
Unexpectedly came out of the game, Dennis. I'm sure it's the leg injury.
No, it's not the one that was threatening to keep me out of the game. It's the hamstring. I pulled a hamstring. There's a stretch for the ball.
Shot by Ricky Davis. Here comes Davis again.
Shot by Ricky Davis back.
And this attack was almost completely missed.
I don't know. I feel nervous when I see the game like that because they want to do something you can't help.
The Cosmos feel nervous right now. Sorry about this.
I mean, I know that they wanted to make the game interesting for the average viewer, but seriously, what in the world was wrong with just letting the natural ebbs and flows of the game do the work? Why all this extra stuff? Now, the worst part is that these idiotic in-game interviews have now become commonplace in American broadcasts of all sports. New York scored again right before the half.
Experienced veteran Brazilian. Here comes Cedinho by himself. Look out! He's got Canalia. It's 2-1 Cosmos. Giorgio Canalia has scored again.
I'm afraid the bench.
And then things started to get ugly.
Here comes Willie Johnston. And a whistle.
Referee is waving play on. I thought I heard a whistle there. Look at Cedinho's speed here. Look at this.
Cedinho by himself, but he's got Canali in the middle now. And down goes Cedinho. Is there a whistle?
Brought down by Lenarduzzi from below.
That's right. Here comes a yellow card
for Alan Ball. Look at Alan Ball sort of reacting with absolute horror. How could you do that to me?
Look close. You can see the dirty play on both sides.
Stolen away by Lenarduzzi.
Now, one of the main features of the NASL was the fact that almost all stadiums had artificial turf, the old AstroTurf kind. That led to some pretty nasty-looking injuries like this one. Seriously, though, where is the ref?
Also, it was too long for ball going across the end line, and Naismith was knocked down again.
The Cosmos started to waste time with less than 10 minutes remaining.
Touch of Beckenbauer, even when he's just starting the things moving.
The ball's like cotton wool when it arrives to Beckenbauer. It's soft.
And that set things up for another shock Willie Johnston header, tying the score at 2.
It's all tied up again. The lightning thrust off the head of Willie Johnston.
Okay, now let me explain what happens next. The second leg was tied at 2, which means that it went to extra time. Remember, this is with the golden goal rule. If 30 minutes go by without a goal, then we have to have a shootout. This really should have won it for Vancouver.
Hector by himself. He could have Moraes beat. He did.
And what was this by Parks?
Now they have to play with the people they have. There's Lenarduzzi. Watch that ball. It's loose. Lenarduzzi still has it. Cedinho.
Tell me, should this have been a penalty?
Canali goes down. We have Cedinho coming in behind him.
Referee is not going to call a penalty on that.
And here was another brilliant save by Parks.
Officially, look out for this one. Handoff. The goalie coming out and saving it.
Nobody scored, and so we went to a shootout. Now, this was the old NASL style shootout, which was more like a hockey penalty shot than a proper penalty. The player had 5 seconds to shoot, and they used this big 5-second clock to keep the time. This is because earlier that season or the season before, Chicago lost a game because a shooter wasn't given the full 5 seconds, causing a big brouhaha. Here's an example of what NASL shootouts were like.
Going against Bergamo, the goalie comes out. Here's Johnston, still with the ball. It's dribbling, and it's no goal.
And here's Beckenbauer giving it a shot.
Can he tie it up? Yes, it's all tied at 1-1.
Alan Ball did the same.
Alan Ball tries to take the lead. And no.
This was controversial in my mind. Was this a full 5 seconds?
Let's see what happens now. He goes around his man into the goal. Was it in time?
Yes, it was in time.
Yes.
In the end, Terry Garbett scored the winner for the Cosmos.
If he scores, it's all over. You don't have to go any further because it'll be 3-1 with only 1 round left. Here's the moment, the fake, the shot, the Cosmos have won it!
Yeah, and now it gets crazy. These players have just played for 120 full minutes, and we're talking all 120 minutes too. Remember, the clock would stop. It would actually stop for injuries and stoppages back in the old NASL. They had also just had a shootout, and it wasn't one of the modern shootouts. This was a run-and-go shootout. And now they get to play a mini 30-minute game, 30 full minutes with no golden goal, followed potentially by another shootout with no break. Here's Jim McKay explaining it to us.
We're going to take a break. A 30-minute game yet to come. Not sudden death this time, but a full 30 minutes. And if that fails, let's try another shootout.
New York should have scored this corner.
Becoming a veteran soccer star. Getting it into the middle. Again by Stewart. Save.
Seconds later, Kevin Hector just missed.
All by himself. Bergamo coming out. Hit the post. Hit the bar post.
This was another fantastic chance for Vancouver.
Posse back the middle of the Valentine. Past him. Hector almost had a shot, but it was kicked away.
Here we can see some of those NASL refereeing problems.
What else do you want? He's still out there with 1 minute and 25 seconds. Looks like Stewart. He was coming to the sidelines. Whether he's coming out or not, we don't know. I think maybe his bandage may have come loose.
It's difficult, and it's a curious decision by the referee. He stopped play for that, and I don't know why, unless they're going to make a substitution. And it was really a rather bad time for the Cosmos to stop play because Naiskins had broken free on the left wing, and he got called back.
I know that we complain about officials all the time these days. However, the NASL was just different, man. I mean, play would just stop at random because of these strange whistles. There were blatant fouls that were flagrantly ignored, and it seems at times that the officials themselves didn't really understand the rules. Honestly, I really think that a lot of the fan indifference was because of how poor the officiating was. Beckenbauer just missed this shot.
Trying a shot right at the goalie.
Another of these.
And here's where the controversy starts.
About a shootout right now. He's on a solo run. He's breaking through all by himself. The shot hit the crossbar and is headed safely over by Beckenbauer.
Well, Vancouver, of course, are going to appeal for the goal. I think it's been given too.
They gave him a goal.
I think they've given him a goal. The Cosmos are not going to like that.
They said the ball was across the goal line.
The police had to intervene.
Classic. Alan Ball will know all about this. We had a classic case of this in the 1966 World Final when England.
ABC specialized in replay angles that were awful, like this one.
Like a good angle. There it goes. That's going to hit the underneath of the bar. It bounces down.
Just went out of the.
Was it a goal?
Apparently that goal has been disallowed after all that.
Now they're disallowing it. Vern, try to find out everything you possibly can. Was the goal given in the first place? Has the decision been changed? Is a freeze frame?
On that,
ball on the
is
right-hand
very difficult.
Well, I just talked to the fourth official who said he did not know. And I said, but you're on the sideline to help us interpret what is going on. And I said, I don't want to approach the linesman. Would you please go and ask him if the goal was first allowed, then if it was disallowed, and if so, why? He is in the process of doing that right now, and I should know in about 20 seconds. Jim, the goal was disallowed because a goal kick was called. The ball was over the end line before the shot was taken.
That can't be. It hit the crossbar and came down and then went over the end line, headed over by Beckenbauer. But he...
The point is this, Jim, that the fourth official who is here to assist us and other media people in terms of interpretations of rules went and asked the linesman, did you allow a goal? He said no, he never allowed a goal, thus the call of goal kick.
So it goes now. Is it over the line or not?
Didn't look like it.
Because it didn't bounce up again, you see. It didn't bounce into the goal. It bounced up and clear of the line.
Jim, I just talked with the referee, Torres Cabrichin. I said, was there a goal called? Was the goal called and disallowed? He said, no. The linesman was not 100% sure. He did not call a goal. I said, you didn't have to overrule him then. He said, no, as long as the linesman was not 100% sure that the ball came down inside the line, there was no goal. I ruled goal kick. So he is saying now, Torres Cabrichin, that there never was a goal called.
Yeah, you heard right. The official explanation was that no goal was called to begin with. I mean, let's go back and look at the footage of the goal as originally aired. Tell me what you think.
There's Carl Valentine. He's not thinking about a shootout right now. He's on a solo run. He's breaking through all by himself. The shot hit the crossbar and is headed safely over by Beckenbauer.
Well, Vancouver, of course, are going to appeal for the goal. I think it's been given too.
They gave him a goal?
I think they've given him a goal. The Cosmos are not going to like that.
They said the ball was across the goal line.
That's clearly been called a goal, right? Like I said, the awful officiating more than anything else is probably what caused the NASL to decline so quickly. Should this have been a penalty? Why was there no call here? Carl Valentine, meanwhile, was doing his best to try to score. And you can see just how exhausted everybody was.
I think he may have been punched there.
I think he was. I think Kenyon took him there because Liberidge again came in late and blindsided Kenyon. Kenyon was watching the ball.
How is this not a foul?
Here's Kanaya with the ball. Here comes Beckenbauer. And let's see if it'll be a corner kick or a foul.
I think it'll be a corner kick.
And why was this called a foul?
The ball's still in trouble. It's a goal! It's a goal!
I don't think the referee has allowed that.
No. The goal was scored, but not to be allowed.
Well, Liberidge absolutely bulled his way through. It was, I think the referee is called pushing on Liberidge.
No foul called here either.
George Naskins, down goes Naskins. Play goes on. Referee calling the advantage rule, I think.
This is why it's so ridiculous to expect these guys to stay out there for so long.
Well, that could be bad news if he can't take his shot.
Now, from this angle, it looks like that Vancouver goal should have counted.
Which he gets off right there. Now, Berkemeyer, the goalkeeper, he goes over him. You're going to see it hit against the underneath of the crossbar. There he goes, and it bounces down. Is it on the line? Is it over the line? Because it bounces up and out of the goal. We thought...
Yeah, it's just crazy to watch this game again today. I'm surprised that it didn't cause a riot. Nobody scored in the mini-game, though at least one of those goals probably should have been counted. That meant yet another shootout. Remember, again, this is the run-up-and-shoot kind of shootout, even though every one of these players has basically run a marathon by this point. Vancouver scored first.
Each can do whatever he wants. Here comes the shot, and it's good.
Then the Cosmos scored.
The countdown clock you see in the corner with the big 5 on it. It goes from 5 to 0. Here comes Naskins, the great Dutch international star. Takes his man out and scores.
However, Beckenbauer was tired.
Against Parks. Shooting. Missing. Over the lead again. The clock is running down to 4, 3, 2, 1. And they've taken the lead.
Goalkeeper to get to that one.
Garbutt won the shootout earlier today for them. Can he do it again? He was limping when the game ended. Fakes his man. He's done it again.
Check out this lob shot.
Here he comes against the goalie, and he scored. He's taken the lead again.
You must score on this if you can get it on goal, and that's exactly what Pussy did.
The 20-year-old American Ricky Davis misses.
Alan Ball's attempt was saved.
It's all over. Here comes the goalie. No, he's blocked it. The Cosmos.
Now pay close attention to the clock here.
Remember, 5 seconds on that clock in the corner. It goes from 5 to 0, and then the season may be over. The goalie moving out. Then Parks, is it what's going on?
They're having trouble.
Why are we doing it? The clock is
making the ball stand still.
Yeah, also the clock went to 8 and then to 4 or something, but now it's all set again. And the flag drops, it's in play. Here comes Moraes. Will he do it?
No, I think...
Was the timeout or not?
No, I don't think he got the shot off in time.
No, it's no good.
I'll show that to you one more time. Now, I think that the clock missed a second at the start of his run, so watch closely again and pay attention to the clock.
Or something, but now it's all set again. And the flag drops, it's in play. Here comes Moraes. Will he do it?
No, I think
Was the timeout or not?
No, I don't think he got the shot off in time.
No, it's no good.
Well, there you have it. That was the greatest game in NASL history. Most NASL fans consider this game to be the greatest NASL game of all time. This comes from a now defunct webpage run by a well-known collector of old games. He considered this to be the best of them all. In the aftermath, the Cosmos continued to protest against the league. Meanwhile, the Soccer Bowl, held next week in Giant Stadium, attracted only about 50,000 people. There were over 16,000 no-shows to the game, presumably angry Cosmos fans. ABC, of course, was careful not to show any of those empty seats in its broadcast. By the 1980 Soccer Bowl at RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C., though, it was impossible to hide the empty seats. And by 1983, most of the seats in the Soccer Bowl were empty. The league, of course, folded the next year. Yeah, so it turns out that this 1979 playoff game sadly was not enough to save the NASL. Actually, in my opinion, this was more a showcase of poor officiating than anything else. And as I've said, I really think that the poor officiating is what really killed the league in the end. I can't say that the quality of play here was really all that good either, despite the big names that were in the league. I'm so used to watching football today where one team will hold on to possession and will make a dominating attack, and the other team will counter. None of that was happening back then. It was literally just sort of lump the ball up and hope that somebody gets a break. Now, this also makes you wonder why in the world the people who controlled this sport in America insisted at the time and continue to insist today on playing it in the summer. I mean, you just watch this and think this must have been an absolutely brutal game to play out in the sun. Anyway, let me know what you think down below. If you want to watch the full thing, I've got the full thing up here on the channel. I have a link down below to it. You can watch it with the audio and video synced more or less correctly. Other versions you find on YouTube are going to have the audio and video off because of mistakes that were made by the person who digitized this, and I think I know who that person is. Anyway, hope you enjoy. Talk to you later.